We're starting the day. I'll get ready in a second, but my name is Shayla. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, I talk about motherhood. I talk about pregnancy. I have a 2.5-year-old and a half-year-old. I've been doing a lot of reading on basically how to talk to your toddlers, and I feel like it's been effective. Like I'm learning things in this book called How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen. I use some of these things in the book and they're counterintuitive. Like it tells you not to say good job. It tells you not to, and some of these things I'm like, okay, well, I'm still gonna say good job. But it explains why and better options to say and whatever. So I just wanted to share them with you. So I'm gonna make some breakfast and talk to you about them. Poor Ez. So she wakes up at like 6 and then daycare starts at, I don't know, whenever I drop her off, but I usually drop her off around 8. So by the time we get back, she's been awake for a long time. Not really sure what to do about it. So figure it out later. Okay, I'm going to make a protein shake. So one of the first things that I've noticed with talking to Aaliyah, and she's 2.5, but I've been doing this since she's been about 2. And I don't know if it would be different with different ages, probably. But it says to just acknowledge, like say back to her what she wants. So in Starbucks the other day, she wanted a cake pop. Well, it's like, whatever, 8 in the morning. I'm not gonna give her a cake pop, but I'll get her some oatmeal, right? So instead of just trying to like ignore her or change her mind or distract her or whatever, I brought her over to the cake pop and I looked at it with her and I was like, is this the cake pop that you're looking at? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, the pink one with the sparkles or the pink one with no sparkles? She's like, with the sparkles. I was like, wow, that's so cool. And there's blue sparkles and there's pink sparkles. That is really cool. We can't have that for breakfast, but we're gonna have oatmeal instead. Fine, she's fine. And it's like so counterintuitive, because why would you bring so much attention to this thing and be like, nope, you can't have it? Because you're explaining to them, wow, I do see that. And that is super cool and just super, it's like validating their feelings and like that what they want is something worth wanting kind of. And then she's like, okay. And it doesn't work every time, obviously, but like I was just shocked even that time that it worked. So I was like, okay, that is super chill. And it, of course, like even adults just want to be validated, right? Like, let's get crazy, let's have some berries. So it's, I mean, it's even like us. We just want our feelings to be heard. So if we're like, hey, I want this thing, and someone's like, no, you don't. And you're like, yeah, I do. No, you should have this instead. You'd be like, okay, no, I want this thing. But if somebody was like, wow, that thing is really cool, but here's another option that we're gonna do, you'd be like, okay. You'd be a little more agreeable. Aaliyah just wants to know that I understand what she's saying. So if she is like whining about something or crying about something, I acknowledge that like she has something to tell me, right? Sometimes she's just tired and whiny, but most of the time I acknowledge that she is a human who also has like wants and likes things. And so if I can just get down on her level, take a second and just go, what did you need? And she'll be like, I said I wanted water. I'm like, okay, let's get you some water. Or if I can't quite understand, instead of going, I don't understand you, I said, oh, I heard water in there. Just repeating back to them that you understand what they're saying instead of just like dismissing them and kind of trying to get in their world and understand what's going on with them. Like there's a parenting style called REI, RIE, don't know what it stands for, but it basically says like your children are having their own experience. And this is more for like letting babies do independent play. But they're like, your children are having their own experience. So maybe your baby's looking at the shadows on the wall and you just like abruptly go pick them up and walk them in the other room. So kind of like acknowledging their world experience and seeing it from their eyes. Everything is new and is a new sensory experience. So if a ball is rolling away, that is an experience. You don't have to roll it back necessarily, because just them learning that things get smaller as they roll away or whatever. I try and do that with Aaliyah too. So if she's digging in the dirt, I try and look and see what she's doing and ask her questions about it instead of being like, why are you digging in the dirt? Come over on the swing set or whatever. I try and get involved in what she's doing. And I just think that like respect of what they're interested in, what they're doing, what they have to say, what they're feeling, and voicing that back to them so that they know that you understand just makes such a huge difference. So we just rearranged the whole house and now the entire upstairs is my office. I'm so excited. So it's all this. Woo! I love it. The other day, my neighbor, I told you about her last time, she is landscaping our yard. She's like, oh, so what do you do? Something with the computer. We're going up in my desk. She's like, something with the computer. I was like, yeah, I YouTube, I do YouTube. She's like, oh my gosh, I was just looking at YouTube at hooving, like how to, I don't know the right term, like file hooves of horses and cows. She's like, yeah, that's on the YouTube. I'm like, that's basically what I do, yeah. She's like, oh, cool. And that was the end of that. It's pretty funny. It's freezing up here too. My sister's like, finally turned the furnace on today. Last night there was a frost. And I was like, really? I've had mine on for like a week. And Seth would be like, it would get too hot for Seth. I'm always cold and he's always hot, so it's quite the debacle. But I turned it on and he was like, it's cold in here. I'm turning on the AC. I was like, are you kidding me? If you're cold, turn it off and open a window. I'm not going to pay to AC the house when it's cold outside. And he's like, this is ridiculous. And we just went back and forth. He's like, I want to be able to adjust the temperature of my own house. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. But really, I do believe if the person who's cold should put on a sweatshirt. Unless it's hot outside. Like, it always drives me nuts when it's hot outside and it's so cold in my house that I need a sweatshirt. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. As he's awake, I heard a little squeal. I'll quickly tell you before I go get her. I've been like trying to think of things. So this book that I'm reading, really, I'm kind of summarizing it in this video, honestly. So if you're interested in anything that I'm saying, you should check out the book. Something that it talked about was pretending. Pretending has been the greatest thing that I've taught Aaliyah. It is like, she accepted a pretend popsicle the other day. Mommy, I want a popsicle. And it's like 8 a.m. I'm like, no, we're not going to have a popsicle. We can have a pretend popsicle. Do you want a blue one or a red one? And so I opened the freezer. I dug in there to pretend like I got one. I was like, here's a blue one. She's like, thanks, Mommy. And I was like, what? It works. She's like, I need a blanket. I'm like, I don't have a blanket. So then I just pretend that I have a blanket and I put it on her. Or the book uses the example of like, you pretend about a house. They'll be like, I don't like this house. You'd be like, oh, if you had a house, what would it be like? And they'd be like, pink. And you'd be like, would there be pink carpet and pink walls and pink floors and pink ceilings? And they're like, yeah. Just get kind of lost in this pretend world with them. Some kids don't like pretend, so it's not gonna work for all the kids, but the ones that like play along, it's fantastic. It's been a great little tool. Band-Aids. Fact, I've already saved like $1 million in buying Band-Aids by pretending. So I go, if she gets hurt, I go, come here to Dr. Mommy. And then she comes over and I wash it and I put a Band-Aid on it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm hurt too. And then she washes it and she puts Band-Aid on it. Before we brush my teeth, I'm gonna paint Moana's face. So she goes, nose, cheeks, eyebrows. And then I go, oh, you forgot her nose. Like to play into her little extra thing that she's trying to get away with. Kind of makes it not so off bounds and like you guys are doing it together. So it's not like, okay, hurry up and paint on the face so we can go brush our teeth. Ezzy's definitely awake. I'm gonna go get her. But those are just some things. I have a couple more. I just got Ezzy. She's down here on the floor. I did a podcast talking about how to introduce your toddler to the new baby. And I remember Seth being like, what do you mean you're going to do a podcast out of that? I was like, there's a whole science to introduction, Seth, and like making sure that there's not too much jealousy and whatever. But this podcast, they recommended never blaming baby. And if I have to do that, if she's like, I want to go outside, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to put Ezzy to sleep and then me and you are going to go outside. So it's kind of like, let me put the baby away and then I'll come out. Somebody else was like, always tend to the kid that will remember. That's hard for me. I mean, that's what I do. I always go to Aaliyah first, and then Ezzy kind of cries, and I'm like, I never let Aaliyah cry, so am I doing something horrible to Ezzy's, like, nervous system and subconscious? I don't know. I talk to Ezzy a lot about Aaliyah. I'll be like, Ezzy, that's Aaliyah's. Aaliyah, do you have something that Ezzy could play with instead? And so then I'll ask her to go get a toy for Ezzy and then she can trade her, basically. And then I make things that are special for Aaliyah, like, Aaliyah, that's your food. Ezzy, that's not for you. And I don't know if that's a good move or not, because it's kind of making Aaliyah a little possessive, like, Mom, this is Mommy's, Daddy, not for you. So I'm not totally sure on that one. I definitely talk to the baby, like, okay, Ezzy, wait here. I'm going to go bring Aaliyah to the potty. And it just kind of, like, balances it out, because you're always talking to Aaliyah, being like, Aaliyah, I can't do that because I have to do this with Ezzy. So to be like, Ezzy, I can't do that because I have to do this with Aaliyah, kind of keeps it even, I guess. And it's hard because Ezzy's getting all this new stuff, which is really old stuff from the basement, but it's new to Aaliyah. So she's, what are you doing? Why does Ezzy get a new jacket or a new whatever? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. So it's tricky. Oh, and then like if Aaliyah hits her or something, I'll say, I won't be like, Aaliyah. I mean, I definitely am like, Aaliyah, no, don't do that. But if I can calm myself down first, I'll be like, oh, do you see Ezzy's so sad? She's crying. Did that hurt her? And then she'll be like, yeah. And then I try to make her apologize, which I know you're not supposed to do. It's all like, oh, don't do this, do this. So I'd like take it all with a grain of salt, but I try to do my best, basically. I told grandma, like, I'm learning not to say be careful, but instead watch your feet. This is hot. It's gonna hurt you. And so she said, be careful. Oh, I guess I'm not supposed to say that. And I was like, you can say it. It's fine if you say it. I'm just working on ways to help her understand why she needs to be careful and stuff like that. So as far as like siblings go, I still just try and observe. Instead of telling her what to do, I try and be like, oh, do you see that hurt her? Let's not hit Ezzy. That hurts her. She's crying. To be like, oh, when she's crying, she's hurt. That means I shouldn't do that. Or if she's smiling, oh, Aaliyah, Ezzy's smiling at you. Look at that. Did you make her smile? Those have been really helpful. Because she, like toddlers do, just gets really excited and gets a little aggressive around a baby. Having like inanimate objects talk, and that has helped us a lot too. So it'll be like, put your shoes on. She's like, I don't want to put my shoes on. You're like, okay, and you need to put your shoes on. You go, what's that shoe? The shoe says, oh, Aaliyah, put your foot in me. It sounds so stupid, but like it just plays with them and they love it. Or like the bath. Did you hear that? The bath just said, Aaliyah, where are you? You need to come take a bath. I don't know. You basically just get to be a child when you're a parent. Okay, she's back to sleep. She woke up after like 30 minutes. I was like, girl, what you doing? So I think the gist of what this book and what I'm trying to say is first read the book if you're like trying to, I guess, gentle parent your toddler, but just like treat them with respect and understand that they have feelings and thoughts. And so like acknowledging their feelings. When Aaliyah gets hurt, I just have to repeat to her what happened. Oh my gosh, I see that you fell. Did you fall right here? Did you hit your head right here? And you bumped it. And I just have to like explain to her back what happened. And it's over. She's like, oh, you did see what happened. And then we'll play pretend and I'll be Dr. Mommy and I'll make it all better or whatever. But that has helped. So not only acknowledging their emotions, but acknowledging their experience. And this has just been huge for us. Just acknowledging like, or like, I want to go to the park. You're like, I know the park is so fun. You like the swing? What do you like better, the swing or the slide? So like not shying away from the things that they want because they can't have them, but saying like, yeah, that is really fun. We still can't do that. We can maybe go tomorrow. And I always make sure that whenever I like suggest something else that is actually something I'll do. So if I know we're not going tomorrow because tomorrow's daycare day, I'll be like, oh, the park is so fun. Maybe we can go on this swing in the backyard, or just give them another option. There's 3 things that are like super counterintuitive of just like, don't say good job. There was a study done and they had 2 groups of kids. One, they did like a math test. And at the end they said, wow, you did such a good job. You're really smart. The second group said, wow, you did a really good job. You tried so hard on that. Similar face value compliments. And then they asked both groups, do you want to take another math test? The ones that were told they were smart didn't want to. And they think it's because if they don't do well the second time, then they're no longer smart. The second group that were told that they tried really hard were more likely to do the second test because they just had to try really hard again. And so I've been really trying to not say, I still say good job because good job is good, but it is external. It's like about me. I think you're doing a good job. And what they suggest and what I've been doing, and it's been great, is just acknowledging what she's done. So like saying, I did it. Instead of saying, wow, good job, you say, you did it. And that kind of puts a little internal like, yeah, I did do it. You're not proud of me. I did it. I drew blue circles. I did it. So we do a lot of I did it. Or I see that. Oh, wow, I see that. I'm not saying this stuff like I'm some sort of expert or anything. I've just found these tools so helpful that I wanted to make a video on it. So the counterintuitive, good job. Instead, say you did it, or describe what they did. Just describe it back to them. Be careful. And sometimes I still say, be careful, watch your feet. Be careful, that's hot and I don't want you to get burned. Be careful, don't throw that, it could hurt Ezzy. So you kind of explain, instead of just being like, don't do that. You explain why to do it. And then the last not so intuitive thing I already talked about was like leaning into what they want, even if they can't have it. So you can still say no. I say no all the time, but because I acknowledge her feelings and experiences, she's like, oh, you hear me. You understand what I want? Oh, I can't have that? Okay. I anticipate things will change as she gets older, but for now, this is working super well. So I just wanted to share that with you. A couple other books that I really like. I have a whole Amazon storefront of parenting books that I have listened to and loved. So I'm gonna run through a couple of these. Hunt, Gather, Parent. That's a must read. It just talks about how they do things in different parts of the world, how they put their kids to sleep, how they deal with conflict resolution, how they do this, like eat differently, how parents live their normal lives and add their kids to it instead of trying to like narrate their kids' playtime. I do that at the park. Are you going up the stairs? Or they're like, no. In the Amazon, they're just gonna keep cooking and the kids get to cook along with them and they don't criticize them. They go, oh, now we're gonna have like oval tortillas, but we're not gonna criticize you because you're doing it. And that's great. How Eskimos keep their babies warm is a similar like global parenting. There's no such thing as bad weather. I'd say that's my second go-to after Hunt, Gather, Parent. No such thing as bad weather completely changed my mind about going outside. Like, it's so crucial. It's just important. And she talks about how just to prepare for winter weather. I found a merino wool base layer. So I'm from Minnesota. I hated the cold weather. And then I realized that it's because I wasn't prepared with what I wear. And so I learned about base layers and merino wool, and they're expensive AF. It's a Explore. I'll put a link below. I'm an affiliate with them. I bought one for myself. I bought one for Aaliyah. I'm going to buy one for Ezzy for this winter. And it just makes me feel so much better about being outside in the winter. I stay warm. I know that they're warm. And then you have a mid layer and then an outer layer. Like, it's not that complicated, but I just didn't ever prepare for outside weather. And so I was always just didn't like it, uncomfortable. Balanced and Barefoot. That's another really good one about being outside and like letting your kids climb and do like risky behavior, like calculated risky behavior, and how important it is that they climb things and try things and spin. And I don't know, she's gonna be on my podcast. That was a really good one. Bringing Up Bebe is an American who is in France, and she sees how the French do things differently, and she just kind of talks about that and what the differences are. They can talk about la pause. When your baby's crying, let them cry for like 8 seconds and see, like, don't immediately go in there. See maybe if they were just rolling over or what. I never did that with Aaliyah. I'm doing that with Esme, and it's making all the difference. And then the Danish way of parenting, very similar. They talk about similar topics. And it said they don't call it the terrible twos. They call it the boundary setting age. And that's fact. Like, she is constantly trying to figure out her boundaries. And something that I noticed is when she does something wrong, like if she falls off of something, they'll repeat it. So they'll keep doing it to like practice not doing it. They might be on a scooter and you tell them to stop. They might like slide to a stop. Then they might get up and slide to a stop again and slide to a stop again. And you're like, what? You're just testing me right now. They're not. They're practicing stopping. Kind of wild. So the boundary setting age I thought was really interesting. And I've tried to keep that in mind because I set boundaries mostly around safety. Within those boundaries, you can do whatever you want. But this is the clear-cut boundary. So instead of saying what not to do, like don't go in the street, you say stay on the grass. Redirect them by telling them don't go up there. You have to tell them where to keep your feet on the ground, or like giving them an option. I try and give her an option. Okay, you can either you need to put your shoes on. I don't want to put my shoes on. Do you want to put the blue shoes on or the white shoes? So no matter what, she's putting on shoes. And somebody's like, well, what if there isn't an option? And one of my friends was like, there's always an option. Do you want to go to your room with your feet on the ground, or do you want me to carry you there? So it's just kind of making sure that they understand their options and their consequences. It's not safe for you to be up there. If you don't get down, I'm gonna get you down. Give them an opportunity to do it by themselves, and then go get them. Go get them. And so I try really hard to keep my boundaries clear and consistent. So if I tell her she can't do something one time, then she can't do something the second time and the third time. So just try to remember what I tell her that she can and cannot do. Keeping those boundaries so that she knows when I say something, I mean it. And she's learning that. That's also the clear, like, okay, I know that cake pop is nice, but we're not gonna have that. She knows that I mean it. I don't sometimes mean it, I mean it. And if I say, yeah, we can have that cake pop today, or you can't have popsicles to after your nap, fine. She can have a popsicle after her nap. And sitting with them. So they're learning their emotions right now. So if they get in trouble, don't go put them in the corner to figure out their emotions. They're trying to figure out how to regulate their emotions, and they're basing it off of you. So if you're yelling at them saying, you need to be quiet, you're raising your voice to tell them to be quiet. They're learning when I'm angry, I yell. So then when they're angry, they yell, and you're like, why are you yelling? It's because you're yelling. So you want to model the behavior that you want them to do. Parenting is a lot of unlearning all of these habits that you've learned. And it's a huge mirror. And so you need to be humble enough to be like, okay, I'm not good at regulating my emotions. I need to notice that. So when I would get really frustrated with her sleep, as I started to feel myself get frustrated, I would just call the nap. I'm like, I'm not gonna force this anymore and just cause this conflict. I'm just gonna call it so that I don't get to a place where I don't wanna be. I wanna remain calm. Very humbling, because you need to be like, oh, I yell when I'm angry and I'm telling her not to do that. I need to learn not to do that. I hope this was helpful. I would genuinely love if you put something in the comments of either something you learned that you thought was helpful or something that you do that I forgot about or that you want to just re-emphasize. I think it's important. I think it's good to have like a resource to look at what other people do and to look at what, like, I'll go through and read it and see what things I can learn. Like I said before, I'm not an expert. I love toddlers because I feel like if you just acknowledge them, they thrive. And so I've always loved toddlers. I just wanted to kind of share with you what I've learned and what has worked for us. Good luck out there. It's a wild ride, but it's so fun. They're learning so much. All right, bye.